All right, what's up, friends? Today I wanted to show you how to use the stripe-perl Stripe client library. This is a community maintained library. Thank you so much, SherardDB, for maintaining that for our community and for our Perl users. I want to just make a quick video of how you can set up a server to accept a one-time payment in an SCA ready way. So here I've just got an empty directory. There's nothing in it. And the first thing I want to do is make a new file called server.pl. And in here, we're going to write all of our logic for creating a simple web server with Mojolicious, which I love the name, and I think that it's very similar to Express or Sinatra or one of these really minimal web frameworks. So let's walk through that now. At the very beginning, we need our little shebang for user bin. We're going to give it the path to our Perl executable. And now we need to import the Mojolicious Lite version. There is a bigger version of Mojolicious, I gather, that is a little bit more full-featured, but we're just going to start with the Lite version. And then we do -signatures. And to be honest, I don't know what signatures does, but this is kind of how we set up the basic app. That should be capital L. And then we need to set app secrets to some big random string. And in order to get a big random string, I think we can do, let's just run pry. We'll find it in Ruby because that's the one I'm, so use require secure random, and then secure random.hex, and we'll just copy that string. That'll give us a random string. So then I'm gonna put that in here. That was using Ruby. I know there's probably a way to do it in Perl, but I'm not familiar. Then we call app start, and that should fire up our application. And at this point, we don't have any routes, so we don't actually know how to respond when a request comes in. So let's just add a simple get route that will run this function when we receive a get request for the root route. And maybe we just say let's see, C render text. And I think we can say hello world. And that should be rendered back, I believe. Let's give this a whirl. So the first thing we need to do is say chmod. Oh, actually we need to use cpan-m to install Mojolicious Lite. Whoops. Lite. So cpan-m is like the package manager. It's kind of like Node or npm or Bundler or Maven or Gradle or all of these things that help you install dependencies. cpan-m is the Perl version of that. So we say cpan-m and then the name of the package we want to install. I already have it installed, so that's up to date. And now I should be able to chmod +x to make my server.pl executable. And now I should be able to run server.pl. And C requires an explicit package name. Did you forget to name my C? Okay. Oh, this should be an equal sign. All right, try this again. Oh, and then we want to run daemon to start up the daemon and have it start listening for requests. All right, so now we've got a server up and running. It's listening on our local host at port 3000. I'm gonna give us a split pane here and make a curl request to get localhost 3000. And we got back hello world. So awesome, we have a web server that's running and responding to requests. Cool, so let's make it even more interesting. So server.pl, it turns out this Mojolicious thing will serve static assets for you if you make a public directory. And in the public directory, we'll add index.html. This will be just like our sort of landing page here. Oh, iterm is great. You can just resize it just like that. So I'm going to fire up some HTML and say accept a payment. And here we're going to have some HTML for accepting a payment. We're probably going to have just a form that, yeah, okay. So we're going to have a form with an ID of payment form. And when this is submitted, we're actually going to handle it with JavaScript because we want to tokenize the card details. So we're going to give it a div with the ID card element. And inside of this div, this is where we're going to mount the card element here. Okay, and then we'll need a button. And our button will just say pay. And when we click the button, that will submit the form. And let's see. Okay, so when we click the button, that will submit the form, which will tokenize the payment details and confirm a payment intent. So with Stripe, we need to, if we're going to interact with Stripe.js, which is one of the client libraries for making front-end calls, we need to install Stripe.js, and we do so like this. We want to always install it from js.stripe.com. And let's also add a script tag here for just card.js. And this will be our front-end JavaScript for actually like handling the payment. So we'll add card.js here. And then like document dot add event listener. Okay, so we've got our event listener for when all of the document is ready, or all the document is completed loading. And we're going to need to initialize an instance of Stripe. We're going to pass in our publishable key here. You can find your publishable key in the Stripe dashboard. Next, we want to fire up some elements. So this creates a new instance of elements. We want a card element. We're going to mount that card element back to that card element div that we showed earlier. And then next, what we want to do is handle that form submission. So we want to grab reference to that form, and we're going to pass in payment form. That's like the ID of the payment form. And then we want to say form.add event listener submit. So when this form is submitted, we want to handle that event like so. We're going to prevent default so that the form isn't submitted to our backend. And then we want to create a payment intent on the server. And then we want to confirm the payment intent with the card details. Okay, so the first step here is to create a payment intent on the server. So we're going to make an AJAX call where we're going to pass, let's see, we need to make an AJAX call here. So fetch P, we're going to make a post request to create payment intent. So it's a route that we're going to add to the server. And maybe here we might pass in some items. We might pass in, like maybe we have some cart that has like ID 1 and title is like, I don't know, shirt or something, right? So you could imagine passing in some cart information from the front end that allows you to calculate how much you're going to collect from this user on the back end. When we get the response back from the customer, we want to store off that client secret. So I'm actually going to simplify this to then just like convert this back to JSON, the same as we had on this line, but then I'm just going to delete all of these so that we can use destructuring. We can say const payment, or I'm sorry, client secret is equal to await. So we're going to await that fetch call. When it responds with the client secret, then we'll have reference to the client secret. And then below, we can confirm that client secret by saying const like error or payment intent is equal to await stripe.confirm card payment. And the first argument is that client secret. And the second argument is a payment, or is like an options hash where we have to specify the payment method. And in this case, it's going to be a card. And we pass in for the card, the value of the card here, we're going to pass the whole card element, which again, we created up here. So this is when we created a Stripe element that's going to be mounted into that card element view. We could also pass like billing details with maybe like the name of the customer. So you can say like name or address or other things here. We'll just put in like the placeholder like Jenny Pearl. Okay, so then we can just like, let's just alert the payment intent.status. I guess if there's an error, we want to like alert error.message, and we'll just keep it super simple. Okay, so this is our entire front end, right? So we're initializing Stripe, then we're initializing elements and mounting, and then we're handling the form submission. And so then we're creating a payment intent on the server with all of the options that we want to pass in and configure what the customer is purchasing. Then we're going to confirm the payment intent on the client with those card details. And then if there's any error, we're gonna alert the error, and otherwise we're just gonna alert the status. Ideally, that ends up being success. Okay, so we've done a ton on the front end. Let's go back to the server, and we need to add a route here. It's going to be a post route. So we're going to say post / create payment intent. So this is going to be another request, but instead of rendering back text, we're going to render back JSON, and the JSON we're going to render back is related to the payment intent and its client secret. So we can get that payment intent by making an API call to Stripe. So in order to make the API call to Stripe, we're going to like create payment intent using stripe-perl. Okay, so in order to install stripe-perl, we need to go back to the command line. What are we? Accept a payment perl. And we want to say cpan-m stripe : net. Or no, I'm sorry, net : stripe. This is the library. This is like the stripe-perl library. So this is how we install it, cpan-m net : stripe. You might also need to install this cpan-m LWP protocol HTTPS. I ran into this issue where I had to install that also. So a couple things you might need to install to get Stripe installed. Now, once we have Stripe or NetStripe or stripe-perl, whatever you want to call it, installed, we can say use net : stripe here. And that will allow us to interact with the Stripe API using stripe-perl. So the first thing we do is we create a new instance of the client library and call it Stripe. This is like a new instance of the Stripe client, net stripe new, and we're going to pass in our API key. Now here you might fill this in from environment variables or from other things. I'm just going to put it right here. You know how to handle your API keys securely, there's tons of documentation on the web. You don't want to directly add this API key in hard code it, because you don't want it to show up in any version control or Git repositories or anything like that. You should treat it as if it were a secret into your Stripe account, so people can process payment with this, et cetera, et cetera. This is a test key, so it's not as sensitive, but please do take care to protect those API keys. I'm going to go roll this right after we record. So, okay, so now we have a client, a Stripe client. Now we need to figure out how to make a payment intent. So we're going to say my payment intent is equal to Stripe create payment intent. And then we're going to pass in all of the parameters and arguments that we want to use to configure our payment intent. There's tons that are available. So if you go over to the stripe.com /doc/API, that's the full API reference. Let's see. Let's add some comment here. Go to the stripe.com /docs/API for all supported params. I don't know if stripe-perl is going to keep up with every single supported param because it is a community library, but at a minimum, you'll want to pass amount. And for today, we'll just say we're going to charge $19.99 for these shirts, and then a currency, and you can pass really any supported currency here. I'm going to keep it easy and just use USD. Again, you could also use the request that's coming in. Remember that we're passing in some list of items, so you could pull that off of the context and then calculate the amount. We're just hard coding the amount. And again, these are going to be an integer in cents that you want to charge. So this is for $19.99 USD. And we pass it as an integer in the lowest possible denomination, in this case, cents. And so now we have an instance of a payment intent returned from the payment intent create payment intent call, this is actually making the API call to Stripe to create the payment intent, and then we're going to we're going to render back the client secret. So let's give this a whirl. So we can just say, let's see, server.pl daemon to start up the server, and then here in the terminal I can say curl -x post http://localhost 3000/create payment intent. We expect to get back some JSON with the client secret, and we did, but it's not nested within any object type. It's just like the raw string for the client secret. So let's clean that up. So this should be the JSON for the client secret, and it's actually going to be like client secret, and that points at this other thing. So we want to wrap this in a hash, or I'm not actually sure what you call this in Perl, but probably hash or hash map or something similar. And when you pass it to render JSON, it should know how to fire that up. So let's run that again. We're going to make the same request, and awesome, we got back our JSON that has the client secret, and this is the ID, or it has the ID and then the secret for that payment intent. This is what we need on the front end in order to confirm the payment intent and handle any secure customer authentication or SCA or 3DS or whatever. So let's go back to the client, localhost 3000. So we're getting back hello world, not our HTML. So let's go update that. So we're going to kill the server, and then instead of just rendering back text when we get this root route, what we want to do is reply with some static asset. So we're going to reply static, and we pass in index.html. And again, it's going to find this index.html file in the public directory, and it knows that because it's a static asset. And we'll restart our server. Okay, server's fired up and listening for requests at port 3000. We've got a pay button, but not much else. So let's refresh the page here and see what kind of errors we've got. Inner HTML, no, okay, so we've got localhost, headers. Did we name our element incorrectly or some such? Okay, so card-element, that should have been mounted, and I'm guessing that it just doesn't have any. Are we loading Stripe? Did the card script get loaded? Oh, we didn't restart the server. Okay, fire up the server, refresh the page, and what is happening here? Are we actually fetching card.js? We've fetched localhost. I'm not seeing card.js being fetched, and that's how we're mounting elements. So I'm wondering if this is not working. Let's try making it not a relative path, but just making it an absolute path there, and then restarting our server. Refresh. Okay, so now let's see, sources. No, it is still not loading that. Okay, so let's test this out from the terminal. Make a curl request to /car.js. It's not a post, it's a get. Okay, so we're able to pull it from, yeah, so what is going on here? Let's see. So card.js, oh, SCR, that's not right. Okay, all right. So I misspelled source, and you might have seen that a long time ago. That's okay. All right, cool. Restart the server. And yeah, if the JavaScript isn't loaded, then it's not going to work, right? Okay, cool. So now we have a card input element there, so we can enter in some card details, 424242, and then we can click pay. And look at that, we got succeeded back. So that is a successful payment intent. We can refresh the page and then enter in one of the test card numbers. So this is a test credit card, or the 4242 is a test card number, but this one is also a test card number that'll allow us to test secure customer authentication. So when we click pay, you'll see what it looks like for the authentication modal to open. And in practice, this page will be populated by the customer's bank, and then they would have to enter in like some one-time token or log in or somehow authenticate to the bank. And in test mode, we just simulate that authentication by clicking the button there. So we see that that succeeded. If for some reason the card number was off by 1, so maybe like we have 424241, 41. Oh, does it have to end? Maybe this is, no. Let me see. So in the Stripe documentation, stripe.com/docs/testing, there's a ton of test card numbers. So let's see a failure case. Okay, so this should be declined with a expired card. So if we pass in these details and we click pay, then we see your card has expired. So that is correctly handling the error case. So we are looking good. We're looking really, really good. That's all I really want to show was how to collect a one-time payment with stripe-perl. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, we'll see you next time.